You are addicted to your old identity. You can feel it in the way your stomach drops when someone challenges you in a room that suddenly goes quiet, when eyes turn and you start babbling your defense because you think explaining yourself will save you. You already lost. Not because you're wrong, but because you tried to be understood. The moment you reached for validation, you made the quiet an altar and offered yourself on it. You know the scene. A meeting. A table. Someone throws a casual jab, clothed as a question. So why would we go with your idea? You hear your voice rush to fill the space, piling reasons, context, history, proof, borrowed authority, anything to stop the discomfort. You felt a need to be reasonable. You tried to convince, but you weren't standing anymore. You were crouching. They watched you justify, and they understood what you refused to, that you were asking for permission to keep existing. Or the familiar itch, the phone, the unanswered message. You tell yourself you're just being clear, so you send a second text, a third, a paragraph to close the loop. You flood the channel because you can't tolerate not being in control of how they see you. You call it being honest. It's not. It's submission dressed as sincerity. You can smell the shame days later and rename it integrity, but the body knows what happened. You begged the silence. You let it judge you. It did. This is how people lose power without ever noticing. Not with grand betrayals, but in these small surrenders that look like being responsible, polite, helpful, fair, reasonable. You aren't failing because you lack talent or intelligence. You fail because your identity is engineered around earning approval from whoever's in front of you. You defend yourself. You explain yourself. You soften your edges to be liked. You chase what doesn't need to be chased, and you call it being committed. You mistake movement for leverage. You mistake words for weight. You were trained to think that if you show enough effort, then others will somehow feel obligated to reward you. That's the old contract you've been trying to enforce with work, with friends, with partners, with the internet, with yourself. But the world isn't obligated. It never was. It rewards the person whose frame defines the situation. It punishes the person who tries to be judged fairly. And you have been living like a defendant in your own life. Underneath your good reasons is fear. Not the dramatic kind. The quiet, domesticated kind that shapes your sentences and your posture. The fear of being misread, misjudged, misunderstood. The fear of not being chosen. You hide it in competence. You decorate it with empathy. You perform humility to keep the peace. But every time you reach for validation, you confess to the room that someone else holds the authority to define you. You hand it over for free because you hate a certain kind of tension. You'd rather be small than feel the stillness that comes with not explaining. You call it respect when you let others interrupt you. You call it being collaborative when you allow someone else's premise to set the terms of your thinking. You call it empathy when you pretend that people's insecurities are your responsibility. You call it professionalism when you accommodate bad structure and bad faith. At the core, it's one move. You step into their world and beg to be allowed to stay. You play inside their rules. You get good at it. You become proud of it. You turn your jail into your identity. Ego did this to you, not the loud version. The flattering version that tells you you're a decent person and you just need people to see it. Ego tells you to defend your reputation at all costs. Ego obsesses over being seen as wise, loyal, useful, kind. Ego crafts the performance. Ego writes long messages to avoid being seen as cold. Ego drips apologies into your tone. Ego hates being ignored, so it dances for attention under the illusion of being noble. It would rather be agreeable than be sovereign. The addiction is simple. You are hooked on being the person who explains, being the person who tries, being the one who goes the extra mile. You love the identity of the reliable one, the reasonable one, the thoughtful one. You get a steady drip of approval for it. It becomes your drug. Without it, You feel naked. So you keep negotiating your worth in every room, every call, every text thread, every holiday. You keep requesting approval from people who can't even manage themselves. You trade leverage for their weak thank yous and pretend it's a worthwhile exchange. Status psychology is not kind. It's not delicate. It watches behavior. It decides quickly. It punishes compliance by demanding more, because neediness signals there's room to squeeze. When you rush to respond, you teach them their time is more valuable than yours. When you over-explain, you admit you don't trust your position. When you take insults as prompts to argue, you confirm that they can set your agenda with a single line. When you chase, you name yourself the lower value. You call it caring. They read it as submission. You've collapsed your standards by trying to be liked by people who don't even like themselves. You've built your habits around dodging disapproval. You've trained your nervous system to anticipate judgment and to move first so it doesn't hit you unannounced. You think you're proactive. You're actually reactive, running ahead to prevent a crisis that exists only in your head. You run like that enough, and it becomes your personality. You lose the taste for refusal. You forget what it feels like to let a moment hang without rescuing it. This is why your presence feels light when it should feel heavy. This is why your words don't land. You spent years branding yourself as harmless. Harmless at scale is forgettable. Forgettable at scale is dispensable. And dispensable is the one thing you swore you never wanted to be. Yet you built yourself into it, in the name of stability, in the name of decency, in the name of keeping the peace with people who have never known peace inside themselves for more than 20 minutes at a time. Look at how you negotiate your day. You wait for instructions. You wait for signs. You wait for someone to invite you to step up. You ask, "Is this okay?" For things you already know are acceptable. You ask, "Does this make sense?" While you talk because you're terrified of how it feels to let a sentence stand without the audience's blessing. You preface your statements with disclaimers. You dilute your own edge before anyone gets the chance to be threatened by it. You serve them pre-chewed ideas. You deprive yourself of the impact that comes from letting people swallow or choke. You don't recognize how often your mouth says, "Sorry." You drop it like rain. Sorry for existing. Sorry for taking space. Sorry for not reading their minds. Sorry for asserting needs. You are allergic to calling anything what it is. You drown it in politeness until every message is paced. Then you wonder why you get ignored. You wonder why decisions get made without you. You wonder why your relationships drift into a shape where you keep giving and they keep evaluating. So you give more. You get less. You call it bad luck. It's not. It's the math of submission. The old identity tells you that to be chosen, you must be safe. Safe to others. Predictable. Explainable. Easy to manage. It tells you your value comes from being low friction. It teaches you to be flexible until you become boneless. It teaches you to call collapse compromise. It trains you to interpret disrespect as a challenge to prove your worth. You accept the test and then complain that the standard keeps moving. Of course it moves. You taught them you'll keep chasing it. If you want to know why you play a losing game, here it is. You keep negotiating inside other people's stories. You keep trying to win in arenas designed to extract your energy. You think you're going to impress your way out. That's not how it works. Whoever defines the premise controls the outcome. You keep accepting premises that make you small, and then wonder why every outcome confirms your smallness. You are not misunderstood. You are obedient. You turned your fear into a personality and then asked the world to honor it. You let the cheap theater of social status direct your attention. You let the performance of confidence by louder, lower quality minds intimidate you. You shrink to avoid confrontation with people who would disintegrate under real pressure. You protect their comfort while they feed on your compliance. You call this maturity because the alternative, refusal, would make you the villain in their script. So you avoid being called selfish by being functionally selfless, which they exploit without a second thought. You think that if you're correct, you'll be rewarded. You think facts win. You think context convinces. You think transparency buys goodwill. You think the right thing will be recognized. You're living in a courtroom that only exists in your head. Out here, the judge is whoever keeps their nerve. Out here, the verdict is delivered by whoever doesn't blink when accusations fly. You keep walking into rooms like a litigant ready to present your case. They don't even show up to the trial because they never agreed to be bound by your rules. You call it working harder when you rewrite your identity to fit their tastes. You spend energy sculpting your tone for an audience that doesn't buy tickets. You practice being digestible. You edit yourself until nothing real remains. Then you feel hollow and call it burnout. It's not just exhaustion. It's self-betrayal. You gave away your center for the approval of people who will not be there when your life collapses. You handed them your steering wheel and begged them to drive well. They don't know how. They never did. How many times have you held your tongue when someone lied about you in public and then wrote a paragraph about it in private? How many times have you smiled through disrespect because you didn't want to cause a scene and then punished yourself later for being weak? How many times have you pretended to be okay with something because you were terrified of the confrontation that would follow saying no? Every one of those moments carved your spine. You taught yourself to be afraid of your own edge. The worst part, you think this is what it takes to be good. Not good as in effective, good as in morally acceptable to the people whose acceptance you crave. You confuse being liked with being safe. You confuse being agreeable with being right. But there is nothing safe about erasing yourself to earn a seat offered by someone who doesn't respect you. That seat is a leash. That welcome is a cage. The price of it is your ability to act without asking. You can keep pretending your way of moving through the world is sustainable. You can keep telling yourself that your subtle diplomacy will pay off, that your patience will be repaid, that your "I'm just trying to understand" will unlock the gates. The truth is simpler and uglier. Your old identity exists to keep other people comfortable at your expense. It protects their feelings. It protects their stories. It protects their control. It has made you useful. It has made you obedient. It has made you resentful. It has made you small. You didn't notice when the little surrenders congealed into a permanent posture. You didn't notice when the jokes at your expense became the culture of the room. You didn't notice when your boundaries slowly evaporated in the name of being a team player. You woke up and realized you're respected for how much pain you can take without making noise. That's not respect. That's exploitation with a smile. This isn't about becoming loud or aggressive. It's about refusing the role. It's about refusing to be available as a surface for other people to project on. It's about refusing to argue when the argument is a trap. It's about refusing to explain when the explanation will be ignored. It's about refusing to chase when the pursuit only proves you're already beneath them. It's about recognizing the invisible tax your old identity charges you to keep it alive. And yes, there are rewards for staying small. You get to be virtuous in your own mind. You get to avoid difficult choices. You get to keep blaming other people for not seeing your value. You get to sit in the safe gray of mediocrity and tell yourself you're above the games. But you also get to die in slow motion, shrink by shrink, apology by apology, one careful text at a time. This is the moment you admit what you've been avoiding. The old identity is a liability. It leaks power every time you feel the urge to explain. It loses status every time you answer too quickly. It confesses worthlessness every time you chase someone who's already shown you their indifference. It can survive only in low-stakes environments where everyone agrees not to notice what you're doing to yourself. Outside of that, it collapses. You have been playing a losing game because you refused to see the game. You thought you were above it. You tried to win by being agreeable. You tried to win by being understood. That is not how power moves. That is not how status is held. That is not how dominance expresses itself. Your old identity is exposed. It's weak. It's unsustainable. It is a monument to your past fear. It needs to be dismantled before it dismantles you. Power is created in the choice to define the situation and force others to live inside it, not with volume. With gravity, you stop asking to be seen. You stop begging the silence. You withdraw the offering of your explanation and let reality harden around your decisions. You decide where conversations happen, whether they happen, which points are relevant, which questions are valid. You set the terms or you don't show up. That's the threshold. Frame is everything. The first voice to name the premise writes the rules. You've spent years accepting other people's premises and arguing inside them. That's why you've been losing. So you stop. When someone asks, "Why didn't you do it the traditional way?" you don't explain. You say, "Wrong question." When someone says, "Can you prove you belong here?" you meet it with, "I don't apply for membership." When someone throws bait, you seem defensive. You don't correct them. You say, "I don't perform for that line." Calm, flat, final. Leverage isn't luck. You build it by choosing what you control and then enforcing it without apology. Control your attention. Control your access. Control your pace. Control your exit. That's the core. You decide who gets contact and what it costs. You decide response time. You decide the platform. You decide the length. You decide the criteria. You don't justify those decisions. You implement them. People who can't handle it are cut off. No soft landing. Scarcity gives weight to your presence. Over-availability drains it. You move like someone who cannot be judged because you refuse the courtroom. You don't argue innocence. You don't argue guilt. You don't argue at all. When accusation comes, you name the motive or you ignore it. You're being difficult. No, you're upset. Incorrect. You're being arrogant. Maybe. And watch how short their vocabulary becomes when you take away their access to your shame. They believed you would work to clear your name. You don't. Now they scramble. Silence is a weapon. You let people reveal themselves in the pressure of it. Someone floods you with justifications. You don't reward it. You let it hang heavy until they feel the weight of their own need. They will try to fill the space with stronger language, with quicker accusations, with desperate appeals. Each one tells you exactly where their leverage comes from. You either walk or you answer with fewer words than they used and strip the premise to bone. Your words must become expensive, short, clean, unapologetic. Use sentences that remove options. No, that won't happen. We do it my way or we don't do it. That's not my problem. I'm not available. Choose now. These aren't slogans. They are closures. They end loops. They deny the other person the comfort of endless back and forth. They teach everyone around you a new protocol. Access requires proof of value. Engagement requires stakes. Negotiation requires leverage on both sides. Examples. A colleague tries to hijack your idea in a meeting. So, what they're trying to say is, you cut in, flat, calm, on the first attempt. I'll say it myself. Then you say it slowly, without seeking nods. If they try again, you look at the decision maker, not the thief. Are you evaluating my plan or his summary? The frame flips. Either they admit you own it, or they declare themselves dishonest. You don't protect them from that choice. Someone asks you for free labor. Can you just take a quick look? You don't explain your workload. You don't negotiate your rate in public. You answer, no free look. If you want a review, we do a paid consult. Choose a slot. If they push, it'll only take 5 minutes. You repeat, no free look. The only way they keep pushing is if you feed them with new explanations. You don't. A partner tries to weaponize insecurity. You've been distant lately. Are you even serious about us? You don't write a long confession. You don't apologize for having your own life. You set the measure. I don't perform closeness on demand. If they threaten to leave, you say, if you're going to leave, leave. I don't negotiate with ultimatums. You just killed the cheap lever. If they stay, it's because they choose the reality you set. If they go, they were bargaining with a gun that had one bullet. Your fear of abandonment. Unload it. A friend tries to keep you as the therapist they never pay. Can I vent? You don't let it devour your time and attention as default. What's the result you want? If they say they just need to feel heard, you say, hire a counselor or tell me the decision at stake. This isn't cruelty. It's order. You teach your circle that emotional discharge is not your duty. You reserve your bandwidth for people who respect their own agency. Frame-flipping moves are simple. Get out of arguments. Attack premises. Someone complains, you didn't respond to my message quickly enough. You answer, response time isn't owed. If you need guaranteed access, buy it. Then shut up. They either accept that your attention has a price, or they expose their entitlement. Someone says, you changed. You say, correct. Then you watch them try to drag you back into the old contract by invoking history. You used to be so. That no longer applies. The door is closed. Dominance isn't loud. It's cold clarity. You signal that you will refuse the structure rather than play a losing position inside it. In negotiations, you don't counter every bad term. You throw them out. We're not discussing timelines until scope is fixed. If they won't fix scope, you leave. If they leak pressure into the room, you don't soak it up. You let it bounce and hit them. If they escalate, you go silent and change the physical context. We're done today. Send a clean proposal. You train them. Your pace is law. Scarcity amplifies status. People think scarcity means disappearing. It doesn't. It means presence on your terms. You show up rarely, but when you do, you bring decisions. You bring standards. You bring outcomes. That creates demand. It also repels the weak. Good. Gatekeeping isn't evil. Gatekeeping is how you protect your capacity so you can deliver weight when you choose to. Without gates, everything floods you and you become mush. Then you complain you're overwhelmed and call it noble. It's not. It's incompetence. Becoming psychologically untouchable starts with this axiom. You don't answer questions that are designed to put you on trial. You redirect or refuse. Why do you think you deserve this? Deserve isn't the measure. Are you buying or not? Who are you to say that? The one setting the terms. What makes you qualified? My results, which you can accept or ignore. There's no spike of energy in your tone. No anger. You state the architecture. If they can't stand it, they're free to exit. You insist on that freedom, so yours is always intact. Control the battlefield. You decide the room, the format, the rhythm. Stop doing performance arguments in group chats. Stop accepting debates in comment sections. Stop letting people pull you into quick calls where they corner you into yes. You answer, send me your position in one paragraph. If they can't write, they can't think. If they won't write, they want to manipulate you live. You don't reward inability or bad faith. You starve it. Give your yes weight by making your no absolute. When you say no, that is the end. No partial, no long explanation. No, maybe later, unless you intend it. People learn quickly. If you wobble, your no is a negotiation opener, and you will drown. You think you're being flexible. You're training predators to circle back until you cave. Make caving expensive. Make re-asking a dead end. Make your boundaries a perimeter, not a suggestion. Make the other side show their costs. Don't accept vague pressure. Ask for specifics and set up stakes. We need you to adjust ASAP. What happens if I don't? Make them reveal whether the urgency is real or just adrenaline. You have to do this. It's standard. Standard where? They cite a norm. You say, not here. You just taught them your shop isn't run by their culture. If they try to shame you with terms like professional, you ask, define it. They won't, because they use words as clubs. Take the club away by forcing clarity. Detachment is the keystone. If you cannot walk away, you cannot lead. So build the capacity to walk. Reduce your dependence. Diversify your leverage. If your identity, income, or social oxygen depends on one person or one circle, you're owned. Fix it. Create multiple lanes of validation? No. Kill your need for validation. Replace it with standards. You approve yourself by execution. You measure yourself privately. You treat praise as noise. That's what makes you quiet in the face of both insult and applause. That's what ties your nervous system to something real. Weapons you'll use: refusal, redirection, ambiguity, scarcity, summary, decision, exit. Refusal. No. Redirection. We're not discussing blame. We're deciding between option A or B. Ambiguity. Say less than they need. Force them to reveal. I'm selective. What does that mean? Exactly what it sounds like. Scarcity. Next opening is Thursday at 2. Summary. We've talked 10 minutes and nothing changed. Here's the call. We pass. Decision. We're doing X. Exit. Stand up. End the call. Close the door. Block. Not dramatic. Mechanical. If you want lines that cut, use these. We're not using that metric. Short answers only. Make your point in one sentence. We're off topic. I'm not available for this. Decide or I will. I don't need you to understand. This is the last time I'll address it. You don't have access to that part of my life. Wrong premise. Not my standard. You can have an opinion. You just can't have my time. Deploy them without heat. Heat is what people taste when they think they can get to you. Cold cuts cleaner. Cold shows you're not trying to persuade. You're governing. Reverse dynamics instantly with structure. Someone asks 3 questions at once designed to drown you. You pick one. I'll answer one of those. You answer briefly. Then you stop. They either reveal their real question or they admit they were swarming you to force a mistake. Someone tries to push a deadline you never agreed to. You say, I didn't agree. I'll respond Friday. If they rage, you repeat, Friday. No explanation. It ends there, unless you want to entertain them. You don't. Your time is not a commons. Your energy is not public property. Your attention is not a vending machine. Price them accordingly. Put friction between you and requests. Calendars, applications, minimums, deposits. If that feels mean, remember what your old identity cost you. You paid with resentment. You paid with sleep. You paid with self-respect. This is cheaper. In family dynamics, stop being the reliable fallback who gets pulled into every crisis. We need you. No. But you always, I don't anymore. If they accuse you of abandoning them, agree with the part that matters. I'm not carrying what isn't mine. If they escalate to guilt, after everything we've done for you, you answer, I didn't ask for that ledger. You're not in the courtroom. You closed it. In social settings, stop competing for attention. Choose the table. Choose the conversation. Choose your seat. When someone tries to perform dominance with volume and jokes aimed at you, don't play. You don't laugh. You don't defend. You look at them like a thing you're evaluating. Then you reassign the topic without acknowledging their attempt. If they persist, you interrupt cleanly. You're boring me. They will stutter because they expected your compliance. You took away their oxygen, your willingness to be the target. Online, stop chasing clarity in comments. You don't debate with anonymous ghosts. You don't correct misreadings. You don't argue with people who want your time for free. You treat the internet like a loud hallway. You post the sign. You leave. Your DMs are not a suggestion box. They are a controlled gate. If someone is worth your attention, you move them to your terrain, on your terms, with your rules visible. Everyone else gets the same nothing. Silence. You don't live to be liked. You live to be aligned. Your standards are not content for negotiation. They are your operating system. Write them. Enforce them. They're not aspirational. They're applied. If someone violates them, you don't discuss. You enforce or you exit. You don't degrade your standards to avoid lonely weekends. Loneliness is better than slavery. Silence is better than noise. Space is better than being overrun by people who see your openness as a buffet. Power isn't delivered by an algorithm. It's taken through decisions that will make people upset. Accept that anger is the background radiation of leadership. People who benefited from your old identity will call the new you cruel. Of course they will. You removed a pipeline. You shut down a subsidy. Don't fix their feelings. Don't justify your refusal to feed them. Don't meet their tantrums with debate. Treat their noise like weather. It's there. It passes. Do not confuse control with paranoia. Paranoia chases everything. Control chooses. You're not guarding your identity like a wounded animal. You're operating like a sovereign. You let people believe what they want, because their beliefs are not your concern. You move cheaply when you try to correct every narrative. You move expensively when you ignore narratives and deliver outcomes. People adapt, or they leave. Both are useful. You'll notice something when you live like this. The quality of people around you changes. The takers leave. The passive-aggressive fade. The loud but empty get bored. What remains are the ones who respect terms, who handle silence, who bring value, who don't need you to digest yourself for them. You'll miss the noise at first, because addiction hates withdrawal. Then the calm will feel like oxygen. Then you will see how much energy you wasted on managing perceptions that never paid you back. This is where initiation happens. You stop performing goodness and start enforcing reality. You strip your language down to metal. You stop explaining. You stop defending. You stop leaking. You start choosing. You start cutting. You start pricing access. You start refusing trials. You hold the line when your old identity screams for you to bend. You will lose some things. You will gain yourself. Here's the challenge. For the next 72 hours, you will refuse to explain yourself. At work, at home, in messages. You will say no without padding. You will set a term without apologizing. You will let silence do the work you have been doing with essays. You will not justify your standards. You will not chase delayed responses. You will not defend your choices. You will say, "That's what I'm doing," and then do it. You will listen to the withdrawal symptoms of the old identity and do nothing to soothe them. You will pick 3 non-negotiables and enforce them. Response time, availability windows, decision authority. You will tell the necessary people. You will not ask permission. You will watch who can't handle it. You will let them go. You will not run after them to tidy their feelings. If someone tries to put you on trial, you will decline the court. If they call you names, you will agree with none of them and answer with one move, exit or enforce. You will not pick up the gavel. You burn the courtroom. Stop waiting for power to be granted. No one is coming to validate the new version of you. Initiation is not a ceremony. It's a cut. It's a refusal. It's a line drawn that doesn't move when pushed. It's the day you stop being the person who explains and start being the person who decides. Power is taken. Value is set. Status is held by those who can sit in the discomfort that terrifies others. Cross the line. Your old identity will scream, "Let it." It doesn't run your life anymore.